Good afternoon, reefers. I just wanted to give a quick update on the Waterbox Frag 85.3. It's been about 4 weeks since I did my sort of announcement video when everything got moved over from the Fluval M90 and everything got sort of swapped over. So we're about a month in now to when this all got moved over. So I just want to start off by saying a big thanks to all the new subscribers, which seem to come from the first sort of proper video on this frag tag. So I just wanted to say thanks for them, thanks for those people. I've been trying to comment and reply to as many people as possible, just to sort of show my appreciation and find out a bit more about your guys' tanks as well, which has been quite nice to chat with some of you in the comments. So yeah, if you have any questions or any sort of or even if you just need advice, just feel free to comment. And I said I'm no expert by any means, but I'll try and help you as best as I can. And if I don't know the answer, then I'll go to someone that is a bit more experienced than what I am. So just thanks a lot for all the new people and the existing people originally that sort of came in on the Fluval M90 video. So just before I go into the sort of obvious changes, there's not been that much to be honest. So the tank is sort of running, it's sort of in autopilot mode at the minute. So parameters at the minute, my alkalinity is currently 9 DKH. My phosphate on the Sailfin test kits is still not really detectable, so I'm pretty sure at this point, being the amount of time we're in on the original system and stuff being transferred over, I'm pretty sure there will be phosphate present. However, until I get a better tester for the phosphate, it's not going to be that easy to pick up on it. So at the minute, phosphate is a little bit up in the air. Nitrate is currently between 5 and 10, so that's sort of where I want it to be. I think I'm pretty happy. If it stays at 5, great. If it stays at 10, I don't really mind that, to be honest, as long as it's consistent. If it goes any higher than 10, then I'll sort of aim to try and get that back down. My magnesium currently is 1350 to 1370. It's sort of hovering around that sort of mark. So the calcium, I did that last week, and I think that was 430, 420 to 430 on the Sailfin calcium test kit that I have. So the sort of Red Sea program for this sort of tank, which I'm trying to sort of not mirror as such, but I'm using as a sort of guide, a sort of baseline basis of where I kind of want to run this tank. It just makes it simple. As I said, if you're not, I'm never chasing numbers, so there's no point chasing numbers, but if you can keep things consistent, that's more the key. But they say calcium should be about 450, so it's not massively under. It's sort of 20 to 30 down on where sort of Red Sea would say the calcium should be. But again, it was actually higher than I thought it was going to be. So I've not tested calcium even since the tank had been run up, it had been started, even from the Fluval M90. So I did test that last week, and it came in at sort of 430, which I didn't think was too bad. And again, I can only think the higher level is just probably mainly down to keeping up on water changes. And at the minute, I'm using Red Sea, Black Bucket, the Coral Pro salt, and I've never used anything else at the minute, to be honest with you. So I possibly might swap down the line. I might go to something that's a bit, so the bucket alkalinity is meant to be about 12, I believe, on the bucket. So as I said, if the bucket mix is supposed to be about 12, but my tanks are running at about 8 to 9, obviously there's a consumption there of alkalinity being used. And as I said, at the minute I am dosing Coralline Grow, so that just carried on from the Red Sea cycling Reef Mature cycle kit, and the same with the Nopox. So I am back to dosing Nopox on this tank. So Nopox I'm dosing around 6 mil a day, and alkalinity I'm dosing 9 mil per day at the moment, and that seems to be holding steady at around 8 to 9 on the alkalinity. So that's okay. As I said, as long as it stays between 8 and 9, that's absolutely fine with me. I'm trying to think, is there a temperature? The temperature on this tank, I run it at 25. I know some people run theirs at 26. It's somewhere in between. I think I saw a few people on videos and they were sort of saying about temperature. So when I originally set my first marine tank up, I did run at 26, and then I saw a couple of videos of people saying, you know, you don't need to run at 26, you can get away with running at 25. And you know, being here in the UK with our winters, if you're running it at 25 versus 26 C, it is going to save you a little bit of heating. But to be honest with you, with the heat, so I'm in a fairly new build property. It is about eight or 9 years old now, but it was brand new when we moved in. So this house is well insulated. It you know, it holds the heat. So as I said, the temperature for me, I've had it set to 25 C and it's been absolutely fine. I've not had any problems. When I mix my water change water, I just heat that to roughly, sometimes it will go in at 24.5 or 24.6, but it's around 25 when I do the water changes. And again, I've not noticed any ill effects by doing the water change. I'm trying to think if there's anything else parameter wise. As I said, still dosing Coralline Grow, still dosing Nopox, not dosing anything else. And going forward with dosing, so Red Sea, I was looking at starting to go the route of doing the individual ABC, but they Red Seas do a standardized 7. There's a 7-stage product range that you can dose to maintain a reef tank, whether you're using a refugium or not. And they've now updated that a little bit now. So Red Sea are now doing a 4-stage reef care program, which is supposed to be a lot more simplified, as in there's only 4 bottles of product to dose. So I think there's 1 for alkalinity, 1 for calcium, and there's another 2 bottles. I can't think off the top of my head what's in them, but because there's sort of 7 things being combined into 4 bottles. And the basis behind that 4-stage program is, if you're not running a refugium, which I'm not going to be, I've got no plans to run a refugium on this tank. The idea is that you just test your calcium weekly, and that they've based the uptake for pretty much everything else off of the calcium uptake in all their experience. So what you do is you test your calcium, you then calculate what the dosage should be between the 4 bottles, and you dose equally. So for example, the calcium and alkalinity bottles, I think the alkalinity is the most. So if that's like 20 mil, the other one would be 10 mil, and then the 2 smaller bottles would be sort of 5 or 6 mil. So, but what's interesting about that 4-stage program is, if you've got the Red Sea Reefer full dosing pump, they've updated the app now, so that if you run all 4 bottles off of the full dosing heads, you can put your calculations for your calcium test into the app, and then it will update the dosage, and it will do it all for you. You've not literally got to do anything. So it's literally just a sort of hands-free or hands-off sort of dosing solution. And the way that the bottles are calculated is they're all supposed to run out, because you're supposed to be dosing them equally to the calcium uptake. They should all run out at the same time. So I think the pack, they do 3 different sizes. So in the UK, the smallest size, I think it's about £70. The middle size, which is for sort of 300 litre tanks, I think that's £100 or £99. And the larger size, I think, is about 170, 169.99. And that's for sort of like a 600 litre tank. And I think it's supposed to last, it should last about 90 days, which is sort of 3 months. So that's the sort of route I'm hoping or looking at going down on this tank. One is I just think it's going to be a lot more simplified. 2, although they say that you only have to test calcium weekly in order to adjust the parameters. So if you were the sort of person that doesn't like doing lots of testing, obviously it's ideal in that sense. For me though, I'd still be testing the other parameters anyway, just because I've always done that, even when I was freshwater before marine. So that's not a real benefit for me as such, although I do find it handy that they base the whole calculating dose just off of the calcium uptake, which I think is quite handy. It does simplify it. Again, that's the big plus. It just keeps it simple. So that's what I'm looking at going on. So that'll be sort of, it should be a sort of around 3 months worth of dosing, and the only thing you need is the dosing kit, and preferably if you get the Red Sea Reefer full doser, then you can plug that into the app and it will just literally do the rest for you. So that's pretty much just sort of autopilot dosing really, which is quite appealing, because it just simplifies the whole process. So I will keep you posted on that, and if I do end up getting a 4-stage doser and going that route soon, then I will of course post it on here and keep you updated on how that goes. Tank, as I said, it's running okay. Everything's settled in. There's another reason. So my main reason is wanting to go onto the dosing stage with Red Sea, whether it's the full 4 dosing program or whether I stick to the tried and tested 7-stage sort of method. But you don't have to dose all of the 7 things. You can sort of moderate between the other sort of smaller elements. But coral growth, for me at the minute, is particularly, as I said, the zoas in this tank, they've not really grown that much, if at all really. And I can only assume, doing a bit of read up on zoas, they like a bit of iodine in the tank. So I think the reason why I'm probably not getting any or much growth at all, or very slow, is because there's nothing really, there's no trace elements being added, there's no iodine. And obviously I think for zoas they do need that little bit of a boost or supplement. Everything else though is doing okay. So going on to sort of this weekend being bank holiday. Today is Monday, so it's bank holiday Monday here in the UK, and this weekend I went back to Tees Reef, which is in Moseley in Birmingham in the UK, and I went back to look for another fish. So there was a few things I was sort of after. Didn't really know what I was going to end up with, in all honesty. It was just dependent on what they had in. So I was after a particular other tangs. One of them was the fish you can see in there now, which is Sailfin Tang, and they had a couple in, so I observed this one and the other one pretty closely for a sort of half an hour period or so, and this one was actually interacting with there was a tank next to this one. They're only in small holding tanks, but the fish next to this one was a brown powder tang, and it was just this sailfin was interacting really nicely with that brown powder tang, and he was in the tank with a Royal Grammar in his own tank, and he was in there with a goby as well. So I thought, well, hopefully he'll be pretty chilled. I was more worried about my Silverspot tang, in all honesty, because he's been in this where he's been in the M90 by himself for a while, and then he's been in this water box now for best part of a month, and he's had it all to himself, bar the sort of yellow-tailed damsels. So I was a little bit worried that he was going to show, you know, some aggression, and it did have me a little bit worried. But so I know sometimes Tangs can be a bit territorial. So to try and mitigate that, I did need some more rock in this tank, because obviously it's a bigger tank. It's a lot deeper now, so it's 2 foot deep, this tank. So I did need some more rock. So my plan was to put a bit more rock in on the right hand side, create another cave through the back, just so it sort of gave a little bit more of an area, and a bit more of a, you know, like a through passageway, and just to block off a few lines of sight going from one side of the tank to the other. So I thought I'll get a couple more bits of rock, which I did, and I picked up the Sailfin, and I acclimated him. So he was in drip acclimation for an hour, just over an hour. Temperatures were matched. He did all right. It was fine. I think, you know, Sailfins are they're a pretty hardy tang anyway, so I wasn't overly worried about acclimating and getting them in. It all went really well. There's no dramas. And then the funny thing was, when he went in, I was expecting the Silverspot Tang to be a little bit on the defensive, and sort of be right on him straight away. But in fact, the opposite happened. So the Silverspot hid in the left-hand side of the sort of rockwork at the bottom, and the Sailfin was just out and about the front, just sort of mooching around. And then it was about a couple of minutes, and then I was sort of watching anxiously, as you do, thinking I don't want all hell to break loose. But then the Silverspot came out, and he went straight up to the Sailfin, and they were just like this straight away, just, you know, really chilled, relaxed. They sort of you know, did their little meet and greet, as you would, as much as what a fish does when something new goes in the tank, and they've been absolutely fine. There's no, I don't know why I was stressing, but I know sometimes it can go completely the other way, and it just causes nothing but stress and sometimes heartache if things really don't go to plan. So thankfully there was none of that. He was really good, and yeah. So as I said, there's now a Sailfin in there. I must say the behaviour of the Silverspot has completely changed, which I sort of expected it would, given that there's sort of a similar sized fish in there with him now. He's definitely out and about more. He's got a bit more of a purpose about him, and he's to be fair, he was always out, but he's just out a lot more. So it's obviously giving him a bit of a confidence boost, which is nice to see. There is still some more stock in that I want to get for this tank, but as I said before, you know, certain fish and fish prices at the minute are just absolutely through the roof. So this Sailfin wasn't too bad. He was 50 British pounds, so that's about, from what I've seen, that is sort of about the going rate for a Sailfin. But he's a pretty nice example, really. He's got some good colouring, and he's not overly big. He looks bigger on camera than what he actually is. Obviously, I'm no novice in terms of fish knowledge, even marine. So I know long term this Sailfin's not going to be in this tank forever. So whether that's going to be by me upgrading to something bigger down the line, we'll see. We'll wait and see. But I think he's going to be, he'll do okay in here for hopefully a while. I'd hope to keep him for a good year or so. Hopefully sort of like a year and a half before I have to get to that point where it's either going to be a bigger tank or I will move him on. But thankfully, I know other people that have got tanks, and Tees Reef is pretty good. So if you have a fish from them and it ends up outgrowing your tank, they will actually have them back, and then you can go and get something else. And as I said, generally, for most people, you don't often see really big fish or large tangs for sale in shops, and if you do, they tend to be quite a bit of money. So for people that have got massive tanks, that want sort of larger fish, as I said, if this guy ends up going back a bit bigger and someone has him and he goes into a 6 foot or larger tank, then that's great, you know. So that doesn't I'd rather that happen than keep him long term in this tank if he gets too big. So as I said, I'll keep an eye on it. We'll see how he goes. We'll document his growth, and we'll see how we go. I don't really think there's much else at the minute. As I said, I've been fairly busy with work, as you do. But this is with I'm filming this with my DD lens on. But if I take that off, it's not as I said, it's never as blue as that in reality. It's a lot whiter, but as I said, we'll just put that back on, and we'll give you a look at the Sailfin. As I said, he's a nice specimen, really. There's a couple more fish I would like to give this tank, and it's just what one I end up with. So I would really like a flame angel, would be sort of up there, and also a yellow tang, or even a purple tang. But at the minute, you know, the prices are just absolutely crazy. But just get a little bit closer. The tank itself, as you can see, the rock work, the original rock, the original Carib Sea rock it's looking fairly matured. It's still got the sort of green tinge to it, but amazingly, there's not really any algae on the rock work at the minute, which is pretty nice. There is a little bit on the rock in the middle, and I'll show you that in a minute. But as you can see, the Sailfin is and the Silverspot Tang is nice. He has got a little bit bigger, I think, the Silverspot Tang. I notice his colouring is changing ever so slightly. He's getting more prominent yellows towards the rear now, which I didn't notice as much before. But yeah, as you can see, yellowtail damsels still doing all right. The shrimp, the clean shrimp, still going, and everything looks okay. I'll just stand up and I'll give you a closer little walk around. So that's from the side. It's not quite as murky as, it's definitely clearer on camera than what it's showing there. But as I said, the rock work, as you can see, compared to what it was, it's a lot better. It doesn't look as green in person. It does look very green on camera, but in person it's not as green. It does look more sort of brown. This is still growing really nice. That's really nice coral, that is. It just seems to be getting bigger all the time. The new rock at the back looks very brand new. Zoas are sulking a little bit because I've not long done a water change. That rock at the back, so that rock there in the middle now was to the far right side over here, and I think flow is still a little bit of an issue on that right hand side. I still need to get some bigger wave makers, really. I need to change that small one on the right to a Jacod SW08. But yeah, everything's going alright. Sump, there's nothing really, well, there's not really much changed in the sump really. So I have now got a Bubble Magnus Curve 5, so that's the skim I went for. That cup has not been changed for the last, that's probably about a week and 2 days worth of collection there, and it is absolutely disgusting. Absolutely stinks. It's probably the worst skimmer I've had to clean out in terms of what it actually smells like. So the Tangs 9004 I had on the M90, that was a lot nicer, if you can even say that about the skimmer, but it wasn't like that. So this is definitely pulling out more than what the Tangs was doing on the M90. Controllers and everything is still that side, and I've still got the UV over that side. And again, I've yet to upgrade the return pump so that I can actually run the UV off of the one of the outlets there. So at the minute I've still got the Eheim compact pump just in that middle chamber. Still running 100 micron filter sock just on the one chamber, but again I'm having to change them quite a lot, and it's a little bit, it is quite annoying really, the amount of frequency I'm having to change the filter socks, so it is quite annoying. I'll say that's the biggest drawback to having a sump tank, is just dealing with filter socks, but hopefully at some point I'll be able to get a filter roller in there. It's going to be the long-term plan, but for the minute I'll leave you guys there. Hope you've had a nice weekend, and if you've got any questions, just drop us a comment, and I'll get back to you. Until then, I'll see you next time. Thanks again.